England, the England I know and love, is country pubs, real ale, ploughmen's lunches, pork pies, pickled onions, and smelly dogs sleeping by open fires. It is old market towns, antiquarian bookshops, castles, museums, and heritage sites, the National Trust, follies, preserved steam railways, steam engine rallies, steamed pudding, afternoon tea, tea rooms, tea and scones, proper porcelain pots of tea, thermos flasks full of tea, sipped in the car overlooking a grey windswept sea while the rain batters against the windows. The common tacit wisdom that tea solves all problems. Outdoor summer Shakespeare plays performed in the grounds of ruined abbeys. Pims, picnic hampers and picnic blankets. Rowing on the river, the dappled morning light sparkling on the pencil-fine wake of a coxed four at speed. Cricket, both county and test, but best of all on a village green. Lazy summer afternoons in the garden, listening to Test Match Special. On the subject of radio, in our time, Gardener's Question Time, and I'm sorry I haven't a clue. Cooked English breakfasts, Cumberland sausages, Lincolnshire sausages, fish and chips, best on the northeast coast, with Whitby as the epicentre of greatness. Herring, kippers, kedgeree, giant Yorkshire puddings filled with slices of roast beef and gravy, beef Wellington, Coleman's mustard, rosemary basted lamb with roast potatoes, braised red cabbage and lashings of mint sauce, Stilton, marmalade and Weetabix, although not all at once. Curry nights with little pots of chutney to go with your poppadoms. Pick your own strawberries, russet apples, cloudy scrumpy so raw and authentic it almost has bits of dead wasp in it. Adge cutler and the wurzels, summer pudding, raspberry jam, clotted cream, sherry trifle, apple crumble, sticky toffee pudding, plum pudding, Victoria plums, Victoria sponge, Victoria by the Kinks, statues of Queen Victoria. Magna Carta, the Petition of Right, the Bill of Rights and the Glorious Revolution, parliamentary government, though not necessarily the current lot, the Speaker shouting, "Division, clear the lobbies," the common law, trial by jury, habeas corpus, Sir Edward Coke, Sir William Blackstone, Sir Matthew Hale, Baroness Hale of Richmond. The Palace of Westminster, Gothic architecture, the great English cathedrals, Salisbury, Norwich, Wells, Lincoln, Gloucester, Hereford, Durham. York Minster, singing Jerusalem in my old school chapel, beneath a stained glass window that said, "Let us now praise famous men and our fathers that begat us." The abundance of ancient village churches with hand-tapestried hassocks, musty smells, memorial plaques, and an almost tangible presence of congregants gone by. The moss and lichen on old gravestones, ghosts both in and out of their proper haunting grounds. Choral evensong, the Book of Common Prayer, the King James Bible, parish councils, the Women's Institute and the Mothers' Union, memorial benches, scout huts. The intellectual and moral rigour of old dissent, the Pilgrim's Progress, thunderous lay preachers in Methodist chapels, the Wesley Brothers' soul-stirring hymns, the nonconformist social conscience, temperance halls and friendly societies, the Tolpuddle martyrs, abolitionists, charters and suffragettes, Salvation Army bands. Bandstands, well-tended municipal flower beds, maypoles, Morris dancers, Morris miners, summer fetes, whack-a-rat, white elephant stalls, the piercing scream of a little glow-plug engine as it pulls a balsa-wood model aircraft up in a gentle spiral through the still August afternoon sky. Foggy autumn evenings when the clocks go back, that strange spooky week between Halloween and bonfire night, apple bobbing, frosty Sunday morning walks on ancient public footpaths through wintering Wessex woods, mulled wine, pantomime, traditional English Christmas dinners with all the trimmings, except sprouts, mince pies, brandy butter, chocolate oranges, Boxing Day, cordite and gun oil, badgers, otters, robins, hedgehogs, spaniels. The breadth and depth of knowledge in unlikely places. Amateur inventors, part-time paleontologists, weekend archaeologists, autodidactic experts in obscure subjects, local historians in M&S cardigans, bearded folk musicians, beekeepers, brass rubbers, bell ringers, artisan mead makers, home brewers, organic smallholders, potting shed horticulturalists, flower arrangers, hobbyists, tinkerers, classic car restorers, model railway enthusiasts, sealed knot reenactors, narrowboaters. Big old drafty houses full of books and paintings, wardrobes and dust. The way the colours and textures of villages and cities varies with local stone types. Lich gates. Country cottages with chintz curtains and a trellis of roses growing around the door. Foxgloves and delphiniums. Thatched roofs. High hedgerows enclosing winding country lanes. Raindrops hanging heavily on the cobwebs of bramble bushes along railway cuttings and canal banks. Medieval city streets with rude names. Interwar Tudor revival suburban red brick semi-detached houses with bay windows, rooting middle-class aspiration in a sense of time and place, a proudly earned patch of ground to call home. Garden sheds, garden gnomes, garden centres, allotments, buttercups and daisies, prize-winning turnips judged by local worthies at county shows. The English language with its convoluted history, diglossic vocabulary and many accents. Its mongrel mix of Celt, Anglo-Saxon, Norse and Norman French. Its indiscriminate plundering of Latin, Greek, Hindi, Arabic and Malay and any other language it meets. William Shakespeare, John Milton, William Blake, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Mary Shelley, Rudyard Kipling, Anthony Trollope, Thomas Hardy, C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, Agatha Christie, Arthur Ransome, George Orwell, Eleanor Scott and Terry Pratchett. M.R. James and all his gang of spook-hunting scholars. Sir John Betjeman with his war on Slough and his tirades against the seaside bungalows so many of us secretly covet. Winnie the Pooh, Thomas the Tank Engine, Postman Pat, The Secret Garden, Brambly Hedge, The Wind in the Willows. The distinctly English humour of Monty Python, Blackadder, Fawlty Towers, Victoria Wood, Reginald Perrin and Alan Partridge. Private Eye, self-depreciation, struggling through noble failure, Eddie the Eagle Edwards and his have-a-go spirit, good sportsmanship, playing the game, a swift half on the way home, banter, amateur dramatics, nursery rhymes. The music of Elgar and Vaughan Williams, Barwick Green, Gilbert and Sullivan's giddy operettas, especially the Pirates of Penzance and HMS Pinafore. Sea shanties, tall tales of the sea. Pictures of ships, not just Turner's The Fighting Temeraire, but that above all the rest. The shipping forecast. Navy days and the field gun run, sadly defunct, sick transit, etc. Gin and tonic at 6 o'clock sharp in the Wardroom Scruffs Bar, passing the port. Little seaside towns, piers, lighthouses, lifeboat stations. Pubs again, with names like the Ship Inn, the Crown and Anchor, or the Pig and Whistle, smelling of salt, vinegar, fishing nets and seaweed. Eerie stretches of empty coastline, windswept out-of-season beaches, groins, Martello Towers, Palmerston forts and the relics of pillboxes and coastal batteries, beach huts. The great English seafarers and explorers, Walter Raleigh, Francis Drake, Martin Frobisher. The scientists, engineers and architects, Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, Richard Trevithick, Robert Stevenson, Christopher Wren, Charles Barry, John Harrison and his chronometer. The humanitarians, Florence Nightingale, Elizabeth Fry and Catherine Booth. Let there be little blue plaques halfway up the wall for all of them, and pictures on banknotes for the lucky ones. High-quality costume dramas, low-budget hammer horror and carry-on films, David Attenborough's wildlife documentaries, Old Country with Jack Hargreaves, Sunday afternoon BBC television as I remember it from childhood, Songs of Praise, Antiques Roadshow and Time Team, all serving to remind the English that they live in an old country. with bats in the belfry, secrets in the attic, and bones under the soil. John Simpson and Kate Adie reporting from somewhere very dangerous, but reassuringly far away. Landscape artists from John Constable to Eric Ravelos, Gordon Benningfield and Ronald Lampitt. The gentleness of the Devon Hills, the majesty of the Lake District, the ruggedness of the Cornish coast, the view from the East Coast Main Line, the Abbey and East Cliff at Whitby, 1930s Great Western Railway posters inviting travellers to visit Sidmouth, the red rocks of the South Devon coast, Teignmouth, Shaldon, with the Ness and its Smuggler's Tunnel, Dartmoor ponies, Dawlish Warren, the bluebells on Exmoor that my father told me to remember, Dartmouth, the Totnes in a picket boat, the Parson and the Clerk, Wookey Hole, Cheddar Gorge, Stonehenge, Avebury Stone Circle, Glastonbury Tor, the Cerne Abbas Giant, the Beast of Bodmin Moor, the Lincoln Imp, the Lambton Worm. In the absence of a democratic constitutional state and national public institutions upon which to ground civic Englishness, English identity can be described and defined only through such a kaleidoscope of cultural fragments. Everyone's list will be different, with variations of detail and emphasis, according to region, religion, sex, class and age. Others will include things that are not on my list: football terraces, London buses, the tube. Things from the counties I know nothing about, like Surrey, Shropshire or Bedfordshire. Nevertheless, recurring images of Englishness do seem to resonate across the political spectrum. For George Orwell, England was the to and fro of the lorries on the Great North Road, the queues outside the labour exchanges, the rattle of pin tables in the Soho pubs, and old maids biking to Holy Communion through the mists of an autumn morning. And solid breakfasts and gloomy Sundays, smoky towns and winding roads, green fields and red pillar boxes. Clement Attlee, Labour Prime Minister in 1945, proclaimed his love of England in terms of trees, hedges, grass and the lie of the land, railways, towns and lighted streets, and, above all, the lit pavements shimmering with rain. The former Conservative Prime Minister John Major, perhaps deliberately echoing the sentiments of his interwar predecessor Stanley Baldwin, described England as the country of long shadows on county grounds, warm beer, invincible green suburbs, dog lovers and pool fillers, seams of a domesticated, settled, quiet English life. These familiar fragments of Englishness, Orwell called them characteristic fragments, keep on cropping up in the imagination. They somehow fit together in ways that construct a recognisably familiar collage of Englishness. In these sad late days, when a legacy of corruption and misrule have made people more ashamed than proud of what England has become, that collage of Englishness no doubt offers some comfort. One may bemoan the stench of public life, or lament the relative decline of living standards, while still finding some anchor of meaning in those few fragments of cultural Englishness that are not yet ruined. Cultural nationalism is not necessarily a bad thing. A civic approach to cultural nationalism sees national cultural traditions as absorbing, not excluding. It doesn't matter if your middle name is Amy, Aisha or Agnieszka, or whether your parents came from Bognor Regis or Bombay. You can be equally included in an English nation that is defined by its shared culture and customs, not necessarily by a shared ethnicity. Even so, cultural nationalism based on cream teas, country inns and all the curious charm, cliches and contradictions of quaint Shire, reassuring and comforting though that mythological England might be, will not help the real England overcome its profound crisis of policy, governance, institutions, socio-economic performance and public ethics. This imaginary England, with its rose-tinted nostalgia, is no substitute for a thriving democratic political community, a government, parliament, and above all a decent written constitution of England's own. Without its own legitimate and democratic constitutional voice, English identity is trapped in these cliches, and cultural nationalism, so stifled, can become nativist and somewhat reactionary.